Day. Thursday, Spirit Day. 6th grade, white. 7th grade, gray. And 8th grade, blue. Friday, Neon Day.
About the Kirksey music program.
I would say my favorite thing about the program that we have here is that all the directors, so Mr. Mabry, Ms. Van Dame, we all work together really well. And we do different activities together too. We perform in certain concerts, we work on recruiting together. So that's probably my favorite thing about this whole thing.
Awesome. And then more specifically, what is your favorite part about the Kirksey band?
I'd say my favorite part about Kirksey Band is that I get to work with and continue to work with the same students for multiple years. And I get to build those relationships with them, and it's really fun to make music with those kids. I smile every day because I get to come here and work here, so it's nice.
Do you think the Kirksey Band program can be improved?
Well, one of my goals for this year, and has been kind of a goal for me in the back burner, is that I need to figure out a way to make sure my students love their instrument. Not just love being in the class, but they love to play their instrument, and so they spend a lot of time on it, which coincides with the next thing, is that they need to understand that they're responsible for their learning. So if they go home, if all my students go home and practice for an hour or 2 hours every night, that bumps our level up tremendously. We become better players because of it. So when they realize that, we're going to have a great band program. I mean, we have a good band program now, but it can always be better, and that's what we can do.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Where were you during 9/11?
I was a sophomore in high school, and we had just finished first hour. And I remember it was a really beautiful day that day, and after first hour we went to homeroom, and my homeroom teacher had the radio on, which was a little unusual. And I thought it was like we were listening to a radio show or something like that. And then I started listening further and I realized, no, this is real. And they were talking about the World Trade Center being hit, and then I think during that class it was hit again by another plane. The other building was hit by another plane. And so at that point we all started kind of freaking out. School, I don't remember the rest of the day, aside from, I do remember gas being under $1 that day, and then when I left school it was $3 something. And I was freaking out. My parents were yelling at me, going, telling me to go get gas and all that. But it kind of shook the world upside down. It was pretty terrifying.
Okay.
During 9/11, I was in 8th grade social studies class. My teacher's name was Mr. Woodward, and he had a mullet, and it was curly. And we watched it televised on the TV.
So during the attacks on September 11th, I was in 2nd grade, so I was little. I didn't really remember a whole bunch. But I can tell you that when I was in class, they weren't playing it on TV. They didn't do that for the younger kids because it was kind of a more serious topic. But I do remember when I got home that afternoon, seeing the news. My parents were sitting in the living room and we were watching the news together. And even though I didn't really understand what was happening, I knew it was kind of a big deal. And then that evening, what was kind of cool is that we actually did. My mom and I went outside and we did a candlelight vigil that they took a picture from a satellite, and we joined a whole bunch of people to do that in our neighborhood. So.
Okay.
I was actually in El Salvador, which is where I grew up. It's in Central America, and I vaguely remember hearing the news about it, but yeah, I was not in the U.S., so I didn't fully get to experience when all of that went down.
Well, during 9/11, I was actually finishing my last semester of college, and I remember I was in a class with about 8 students, so it was a really small class, but our professor had come in and he noticed something that was on the news, and so we didn't have class that day. All we did was watch the news and talked about what was happening, so I remember being really scared.
I was in high school and we were having picture day in the library, funny, and we heard that something had happened and that we needed to turn on the TV.